Hey, what's up? We are here for part two of the long wallet. I'm using a natural vegetable tan, which I'm real excited about. It's one of my favorite projects, just using a natural vegetable tan leather, and it comes out perfect. So if you're interested in part one, I'll put a link in the description. But here's basically where we at this point. We've cut everything out and we're getting ready to put this thing together. So as far as your supplies, I'm gonna show you what we need tonight, and hopefully this will get you going. So part two is going to be the building process, getting everything set. Part three will be kind of finishing touches, doing the edge work and getting there. But again, this is part two. Part one will be in the description. I'll get you a link there to show you how to cut all these pieces out. It's a pretty simple process. I think I got it worked out fairly simply, simple process to make sure. You know, if you're a beginner, it's hopefully easy to pick up on, and you don't need any, you know, special tools or anything. I'm doing everything by hand at this point, so it's a pretty cool project to start with, and it's one of my favorites. So here's what we're working on. Let me show you some of the tools we'll be using tonight. All right, so scanning through some of our tools, we will need a hammer of some sort or something to punch holes with, and that'll go with our chisel set here. I'm going to use this 4mm chisel set, and this will punch our holes to get ready for our hand stitching. Always get you a handy dandy razor, some straight edge rulers, a couple scratching awls here. You always need scissors, some thread. It's just 150D waxed hand sewing thread here. If you have access to any kind of heat, this is heat erasable pen, so I can use that, make some lines, and then I can just put some heat to it, and it erases it. So, and then also just a card, and that'll be for the spacing to show us when we are putting our card holders in there. We just want to make sure that we have the correct spacing, so that'll be important as well. You don't have to have it, but it is something nice to have to make sure that your cards will end up well. So hopefully you guys have those supplies. Again, they're fairly minimal supplies, and then we'll get this thing built up. Oop, one last, I forgot my barge cement. We're certainly going to need that to secure these together first. So here's kind of a brief look again at the supplies, and I'll put a link in there as well, or at least in the description I'll put some supplies that you may need for this one. So a couple of tools this will be super handy. This is a stitching horse. I didn't have one for the first few, here it is here, just hold your project in there. I didn't have one for the first few years. In doing leather work, when I got one, I found out how helpful they can be. They're not too bad, they're relatively inexpensive, but they are a big help if you can get one. Also a skiving, some sort of skiving tool to thin out some of these edges, a wing divider. Generally you can use that in every project. And then if you have some sort of lighter or something to melt the ends of the stitches, in this project we'll have bunch of stitching, but yeah, on the back side you'll need something to melt and just kind of end that stitch. So that should do it for the tools portion. All right, so we're at the part now where we actually get to put some of this together. So we have everything cut out. We're gonna work first. This is our interior piece. Now keep in mind, and this is a good time to pick out what you want that exterior to look like, the front and the back. I've chosen this side. I just love this little character across here. Some just looks pretty awesome. So that's why I chose it. I want this on the front. So this will actually be my front side. All I'm gonna do from here is line these up, make sure everything is clean as it can be on either side. Make sure there's nothing extra in there. If there is, you can clean it up, tighten it up, but you certainly want to make sure and have a good starting point. So I'm just going to attach it right here, and I'm going to put some contact cement. I use barge contact cement, and so I'm just going to contact cement this all the way around, and then that'll give us a good baseline to make sure we can, when we start punching these holes with the diamond chisel, this will give us a good starting place, and it should be already pretty secured anyway, because veg tan sticks very well to veg tan, so it shouldn't be a problem, and it should be great. But that'll give us a good starting point from there, and then we'll move on to this section over here. All right, so here we are. I've gotten this barge cemented on our three sides here, and I'm just going to leave that now. I'm not going to worry about punching holes or anything yet. So that'll be attached in there, and then we're going to start working on this side here. And this is probably the trickiest part, but again, it's not too bad. It's something we can certainly work our way through. So make sure this fits. You want to make sure there's enough length there. If not, we're in trouble. But you certainly want to make sure there's enough in here, which it does. It lines up, and we can correct any imperfections or anything on the edges as we need to. So what we're going to do here, you can actually take the exterior for now and just toss it. And this is where this card, if you have handy, will come into play. And the reason being, we have to lay these out, and I want to make sure, I want my card to sit basically right here on top. So I want there to be not much room there. I made one before and I didn't measure, and that joker was sticking out like this. So I usually start with one right there. And then what I'll do, because I know I have to stitch this at the bottom, I'm going to leave a little bit of space down there just to make sure that I have, let's see, so that'll be just right. So I want to line this up straight. All right, so what I'm going to do is basically just do a dry run here. I'm going to, my height is right, everything's good here, and I'm just going to start placing these down on here like so, just to make sure. I want these to be nice and straight. And if we have to, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, we may have to cut this last piece again if something isn't lined up, but I like to try to get it as close as possible. And then, so see, this one's a little short, so I'll just bring everything down from here. But as far as lining up nice and straight, looks good. I don't foresee any areas or any problems that I may have. Let's see, like that, and then this one will curve right in. So it does take some, just kind of, you always want to just make sure it's going to work out right. And again, you can kind of correct anything on the edge if you do have some overlapping pieces or anything, but I think this will be a nice little finish here. So again, make sure on this side, I've already, in our last video, I've actually already done some edge work on these, just a light touch up with that gum trag that we used before. And so, let me get you, it's over there. So all these can be done. These will all be done at the end, so we don't have to worry about those now. All right, so for now, once I kind of got that dry fit in there and I feel comfortable with it, what I'm gonna do, I also want to make sure each one of these sides should fit just underneath the one above it. So it should fit in there, and it does take some playing to get there. There we go. And so, let's see, this first piece is gonna be the most important one because that's the one I'm gonna lock in first. All right, so we are looking pretty good there. That's a nice clean finish there. All these will fall in nice. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put my finger on this top one, take out these other pieces. That way I know that's where that's my starting point. So I want this to be nice and straight. I'll take the card out from this point. And then I will take my scratching awl and basically make my marks of where this is gonna go. So I'll put a little line there, underneath here, make a little line, and then I'll start here and make one there. So I can take this off, and all I'm gonna do here is just kind of scratch this up a little bit. That contact cement does pretty good anyway, and it's not something that I need a ton of. Just get this up here and up here, because really this is, when I contact cement it now, it's just to keep it in place for when I stitch it. So, and these edges we just want to come down a little bit and skive that off, just so it kind of flushes in nice and there's not a big lump underneath the card. And this is 3.5 ounce leather, so it's not crazy thick, anything like that, but just to have a nice little taper there. And that doesn't even have to be clean. So what I'm gonna do is essentially glue these, get some contact cement, get this thing ready to be sewn. I'm just gonna touch it up just lightly on the bottom, and then up here on my tabs. And I only want about that much, because remember, those cards are gonna have to fit in there. If you do go over a little bit, it's totally fine. As you put them in there, it will actually pull apart. So If you went a little heavy, that's okay. There we go. I'll let that sit. Let's see, and my little glue spatula here is just about the same width as that, so anything excess I'll try to get off beforehand. Almost messed that up. All right, that's a little heavy there, so I'll just take that off. All right, so now I'm gonna line these up. I wanna concentrate on this side right here because this one needs to be straight with this edge because it is gonna be the first one we lay down and the one that's gonna be most important. And we're gonna line everything else up with it. A little extra glue there, I'm just gonna wipe that off. Lay this back. Wipe that off as well. All right. So now we got this on there. Now this doesn't even have to be, you don't necessarily even need these, but when you're doing, you want to attach this now. So it's going to be attached. These are all going to be stitched on the underside of this, and then this is going to be laying on the interior of the wallet. So none of it will be seen. None of these lines will be seen either. I usually go about an eighth or so. You can just kind of eyeball it, but you want to be towards the bottom of it. If you don't have chiseling irons or anything at this point, you can just make 4 or 5 holes in here. I will, actually, I'll show you that. I'll just punch a few holes in there and we'll stitch right through there. There we go. Just got to make them a little bit bigger to get those needles through. And then again, I'll try to link up. I'm trying to think of all the different things that I have. I have a video on threading needles, on edge work, on a few different things. So it's a few different skills that you'll be needing in this. And so if you need to polish up on those or you've never learned, you can head over to the channel and I'll hopefully get you where you need to be. It is helpful if you have a stitching horse. Let's see. You don't need one, but it is very helpful. It's another set of hands for you. So if you do have access to one, or if you see one, you're saying, what the heck is that? This is a stitching horse, and it really helps to secure your project and hold it to give you some extra hands. So if you don't know how to thread, check out the channel. If you don't know how to sew, check out the channel. My idea was to make sure that every skill that we're going to use, I have something on to make sure we can take you to the finish line. So I'm going to stitch this on. All right, so here we have it stitched on here. We're nice and flush on this side. And from there, you're gonna take these other 2 pieces you had cut and you're gonna line them right up on that same edge. Make sure it folds underneath here nicely. Make sure it folds underneath here nicely. And you're gonna do the exact same thing. Put a little stitch right here, move on to the next one. Put a little stitch right here, move on to the next one, and then hold off at the end, and we'll show you what to do with this. So So yeah, the next two will just be the exact same process right here and get you back to where you're ready to attach this final one on the bottom here. All right, so once you have these first three in there, those will all be stitched towards the back. This last piece should just fit in, and all you're gonna do is glue it. There's no stitching for this piece, so it should line up. If you did your fitting right early on, everything should line up. It should be nice and flush here. If you need to correct anything on this back side, my burn marks, correct anything on this back side, you can do it now as well, or once you attach it, but just before you attach it. That's the only time. But yeah, this one won't require any stitching as of yet, because as we stitch the actual wallet, this will be included in that bottom stitch. So we're not going to touch this one right now. But what we are going to do is those wing dividers we mentioned early. If you have these, they're very helpful. We are going to make a mark down the inside here. I usually use about 1/8 of an inch as well. But basically just give yourself a nice straight line in there, so you can use those diamond chisels if you have a punch set, whatever you're going to use. But these are probably the most consistent. Diamond chisel is probably the most consistent, just because the spacing's going to be right and you can cover a pretty good fair amount of ground. I'm going to use this 4mm, so that means there's 4mm in between each chisel there. And what I always do to start, I like to start at the bottom here. So I'll put just a little mark right here, and then I'll carry it forward right here. So I'll start here, and the reason being, I want this bottom stitch and this stitch going up to be the same hole. So I want to start in the same place. So I'm going to start down here, make sure, because this will be my bottom stitch coming across on that side, and then I'm going to start it back down here. So my first hole is going to be right there at that intersection. So I'll start my chisel there, start here, work my way up, and then I usually go one extra on top of this piece here to end up there. That way my stitch can carry over, and then we'll start to work back for my 3 back stitches up here. We're going to stitch this on, and that'll get us ready to go and get these things attached and hopefully on our way. All right, so I got my saddle stitch right here. Look in the description if you'd like. I got a video on how to get that's pretty beautiful. Let's be real. Got a nice saddle stitch in there. All we gotta do from here is secure it. So I'm gonna get the barge cement, go around these 3 edges right here, and then we'll be ready to get this thing finished up. So tonight's video was essentially just to get to this part. I wanted to get interiors both set to go, and then the third video, it's going to be all about finishing it up. So we're going to stitch this thing up, work on these edges, and it'll be ready to be shipped. So I hope you enjoyed it. Again, if there's a part 1 to this video for all these pieces and everything, how we got here, I'll put a link down there in that description. And then any questions you got, let me know. Otherwise, see you soon.